Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the RPM podcast. As always, I'm Eric Brennan, alongside Eric Graham, and directly across from our buddy Josh Matthews, the Matthews Family Studios.
Howdy.
In lovely Waretown, New Jersey.
Joyzy is how you're supposed to say
Jersey.
it. Joyzy.
Jersey.
Yeah.
By the way, you guys can't blame Benny's for the traffic this afternoon.
I actually had excellent traffic.
All right. How quick do you get down here in the winter?
Pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Less people out.
Yes. The Bennies.
Why would the Benny's come down on a Tuesday afternoon?
Bennies aren't just New Yorkers, so you're confused because you don't see a bunch of New York plates. They're all from North Jersey. Come down to their shore houses.
You guys call your own people Benny's?
North Jersey, yeah.
Most of the acronym of Benny is New Jersey locations.
Bergen, Elizabeth, Newark, and New York.
Wait, what is it again?
Bergen, Elizabeth, Newark,
or
and New York.
Bayonne
you can change it around. Pretty much
most
anything.
Of it's Jersey.
You know the Driscoll Bridge? You know that big bridge around
I go over it.
127 there? Yeah.
All those crazy people that call pork roll Taylor ham, they're Bennies.
Yeah, and if
I don't know what either.
Anything
of
north of that bridge can stay up there.
It's actually probably good because if you knew what pork roll was, you'd eat it all the time.
I don't do that already.
No, you don't know what it is.
No, you would eat it all the time if you knew what it was.
I just said eat all the time, not eat it all the time.
He said eat it.
No, I meant, you know what I meant.
Like a wiener?
I
he gets so butthurt over his wiener thing. So I'm gonna try to limit it in this podcast.
Wait, you're saying, you said that like I have a medical condition.
But
the way you worded that.
Shut up. But next time you see Eric Brennan, bring up wieners. That's our deal. We have like 200 listeners now. We're actually growing pretty steadily. Thank you for telling your friends and everyone.
And Sam, thank you for forcing your friends to listen.
Yeah,
to us.
Sam holds
your truck.
cousin Sam holds his friends hostage and makes them listen to the show. But if next time you see Eric Brennan, just talk about wieners.
Hot dogs, not you really need to like define what this is all about.
All right. Anyway, let's.
It's coming across like something.
He loves
different.
foot-long wieners in his mouth. I mean,
see, that's going way overboard.
Can we do the fish sticks joke from South Park?
What fish sticks joke?
Never mind.
I don't know what we're talking
about. But I'm not going to bring it up again, so there you go. You wanted me to talk about it less, and now I'm talking about it less.
Well, all right. Well, at least that's buried for the moment.
You want a good Eric Brennan story?
I'm afraid.
No, I'm going to say something nice about you. This is rare, guys. 16 episodes. I'm saying that's something nice about Eric. So
took that long.
So we had a fan that lived in Staten Island that was on Facebook saying how they come to Wall every week and that their car was messed up and they couldn't make it and they're kind of distressed over it. And Eric lives in Staten Island and I've said on here a few times he's a sweet boy and now people are all starting to see how sweet of a boy he is. He actually
I'm really
took
a jerk.
this guy.
I put up a facade when I did this, so.
He actually took this guy to the track and then took him home.
That was nice.
I tucked him in,
You're
too.
a sweet boy. Did you?
I read him a bedtime story, and then he called me on Monday. And
we're giving you something very positive to work with, and
it wasn't
you're destroying
that big of a deal.
yourself.
The guy didn't live that far from me. It really, listen, he was a wonderful, wonderful guy.
Most people wouldn't do that.
Really?
Yeah.
Picking up a stranger?
Yeah.
Well, what's funny is...
That's how movies start.
When we
the
got...
next thing you know, you're in the guy's basement. And,
if it was porn starts that way.
Well, yeah. It could go one of two ways. I'm here with your package. Eventually, we'll talk about racing, guys. Don't worry.
No, what I was going to say is, when we got to the track, I said, is there anything I can do for you before he goes inside? And he said, yeah, just don't forget me when you leave. And I thought about it, and I said, you know what? That's something I actually would do. I would leave and forget about him and then not realize it till I'm at the Driscoll Bridge. And so I said, you know what? You hold on to my car keys, because I'll go for my car keys, and then I'll realize I gave them to you, and then I won't have a problem.
That's how trusting Eric Brennan is.
He looked at me, and he goes, are you serious? I said, well, where are you going to go? I know where you live. He's like, how do you know I wasn't just standing there? And, like, he was trying to talk me out of it, and I didn't know why. And I said, look, I usually trust people 100% right off the bat, and I give you a chance to screw up and tell me why I shouldn't trust you. And that didn't happen. So it was
okay, my car was stolen and driven into the ocean.
It's a lease anyway. Plus, it's a Honda. Do I really care?
Actually, a Honda you could probably take out of the ocean and keep running.
It'd probably float across the river back to Staten Island. You could probably drove it straight there.
It'll rust out pretty quick.
All the sewage.
Now, one car that will not float is an Indycar. I'm getting good at this transitional stuff.
It was a little clunky.
It wasn't that bad, though. How am I supposed to break out of that conversation and talk about the IndyCar race?
Well, the point is we were trying to make a really nice positive story about you.
I appreciate it. You guys, I'm
you
probably
were trying to
blushing.
shoot yourself in the foot on that one, too.
Because I'm a jerk. I don't know what else to say.
You're not that
You're
much
not
of
a jerk. You're a sweet boy.
I'm gonna.
If you don't want to talk about wieners around, call him a sweet boy.
No, I'm blushing.
You are a little bit.
I'm still redder than you.
No, really, I am.
Might just
I'm
be your
starting to
Irish side.
Yeah, that or the new haircut.
All right, so IndyCar.
Indy cars can't float, and that became obvious on Saturday night when they were supposed to race at Texas Motor Speedway. I think they ran till about midnight Eastern time until they decided it wasn't going to happen. But when they moved it on to Sunday,
All right, can I say something?
yes, sir.
I tuned in. I think it was scheduled for what, 8 o'clock,
But I think 8 p.m.
Thereabouts.
Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
something
yeah.
like that. All right. Well, when I tuned in, somewhere a little after 8, they're drying the track. They're drying. They're trying to dry the track. They have the jets out there, and they're doing everything they can. And I want to applaud IndyCar for all the effort they put in to trying to keep that track or get that track ready. And I also want to say I'm not happy with them because it took so long. I mean, it's when do you realize it's not going to happen? I mean, there's sometimes, all right, it's getting better. It's getting better. At some point, it must have just not been better.
I'm guessing they saw a small window, and then they realized, hey, it's going to rain tomorrow too, which ended up happening. And they're like, we got to try to get in this small window now, or else it's not going to happen.
And in terms of what happened Saturday, there were a couple of things that I read about how that all unfolded. And Josh, you bring up a good point. It seemed like, first of all, it seemed like it was abnormally long to dry that track. And there's two
they
reasons.
don't have the air tighten system.
Exactly.
That's one part.
Once the truck race finished up Friday night, NASCAR took their crap and went home. So, which to me is an oversight on IndyCar's part because they should have used a little bit of business savvy and tried to work something out.
Well, I mean, how many times at Dover you'll see Pocono trucks and vice versa?
Yeah, there's some inner working deals. And it's funny that you mentioned that because those are two privately owned racetracks that work together.
Well,
so
our very own Wall Stadium Speedway rents or borrowed the jet truck from Englishtown.
Exactly. So to me, especially if they were to look at the forecast ahead of time, they probably could have worked something out because they weren't going to drive all the way up to Michigan in one day. So that was a bit of an oversight there. The other thing was because Texas has now one of the oldest track surfaces. It hasn't been repaved since 2002. They had those weeper spots in which Ryan Hunter-Reay was quoted as saying there are certain areas where if you stick your hand in what looks like where the water's coming out of, it's like sticking your hand in a swimming pool. I mean, it's that deep in terms of water where it's seeping up out of the cracks. So I don't blame the series for trying everything they could to get it in, but they did have a lot of things going against them from the get-go, which I think we could fault them for, such as the air tighten issue. The weeper thing, that's a track issue. It happens in a lot of places, but you know what? If you have the right tools,
I noticed he
you
loves
can
talking
combat it.
crap about IndyCar.
No, because it's like it never fails. They always find a way to shoot themselves in the foot. However, one way we could spin this into a positive before we get into Sunday's running or attempted running of the race is what a lot of the drivers ended up doing. And I don't know if you saw this, Josh, and we were talking about it prior off the air,
I think I know where you're going with this.
but a number of drivers took it upon themselves. We were talking to our buddy Staten Island Jim, and he was saying how he was home and he was trying to watch the rain delay coverage, and he said the coverage was awesome. It was nothing like a NASCAR rain delay coverage that you would ever see. Like the drivers were personable, they were funny, they were texting each other, calling each other while they were being interviewed and stuff. And eventually they started kicking
There was
around
a time
the idea.
when NASCAR was just like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, they have been.
And they started kicking around the idea of going up into the grandstand with the fans. And sure enough, a handful of drivers, and the list is right here from Fox Sports, Munoz, Newgarden, Ray Hall, Connor Daly, Michaela Lotion, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Sebastian Bourdais, and Indy 500 winner Alexander Rossi. They had 8 drivers go through the fencing and go up and start mingling with the drivers. And if you search like IndyCar stands on Twitter, there were some really cool overhead shots of the drivers literally in like a mosh pit of fans. It's insane. You would never see that at a NASCAR race.
But didn't I bring up last week when you go to Pocono, the IndyCar race, like the drivers are just everywhere.
I know we've
You'll be
talked about
standing
it
in
in the
line
past.
for food with the guy.
Yeah, and we've talked about in the past how fan-friendly IndyCar and the NHRA is similar. And granted, none of us went to Englishtown this past week, but IndyCar really
busy.
does what. And you know what? I don't even know if I can credit the sanctioning body more than I can credit the actual drivers. This sounds like a driver-inspired idea. Even according to this report on Fox Sports, it was something that the drivers elected to kind of do to try to help the fans that came out to watch the show. One of those drivers who was in that little mosh pit was Graham Rahal, and he was quoted on Sunday after they originally targeted a 2 o'clock start, and that got pushed back a half hour for wet weather. Rahal came out and said, I think somebody owes these fans an apology, whether it be the series, Eddie Gossage, or what have you. So I think the series is fortunate that they have drivers who are happy to be there. Because without them, I don't know what the series would do. And again, it's not something that they did directly to cause this. I mean, they didn't dictate the weather. But I think some of the predetermining factors could have been thought out a little bit better in terms of preparing for such a situation. So I don't know if you guys have anything to add on that before we talk about what happened Sunday.
I think you covered it pretty good.
That's it.
I know how hard it is to run a race, so you're rarely going to hear me talk crap about people dealing with situations.
They made an effort. I'm really glad they tried that hard, but at the same time, it was also frustrating that I'm waiting and like, all right, I gotta go to bed.
The only reason I think they waited that long is because they knew that it was going to be very
Yeah.
hard to get the show on the next day.
Well, that's exactly what ended up happening. They moved to Sunday. The race was supposed to start at a certain time, got pushed back for wet weather. They finally went green. Of course, Ryan Hunter-Reay had another amazing start from the middle of the pack, passed a ton of cars. And then they get to just past or midway through a small cycle of pit stops, and a big wreck happens. Where Connor Daly got loose, collected Joseph Newgarden, and actually pitched Newgarden up on his side that he slid helmet first into the outside wall, which
Was
at the moment that I was watching, I just flipped from the Cup race back to the IndyCar coverage, and the wreck just finished. And Newgarden was still in the car, and right away I noticed the roll hoop was gone. And, I mean, I didn't even see what happened exactly, but it took me right back to Vegas 2011, and it was frightening. Then when they showed the replay, it was even more frightening because it takes you back to what happened to Greg Moore in '99.
mm-hmm.
But they did design this car after Weldon's incident, and it did its job.
In fact, it looked like the roll hoop penetrated a hole in the steel portion of the safer barrier in one of the steel segments, which they had to weld a plate over to protect it. And it sounds like that Daly just had a broken clavicle and a fracture in his wrist.
Newgarden.
I'm sorry, yes, Newgarden. Daly was fine. My mistake.
a lot of damaged steel walls this weekend.
Well, I mean, that's when you use steel, that's what happens.
Yeah. I was actually, after the initial hit into the safer barrier, as he was still skidding along on his side, another car comes through trying to avoid the accident, and that could have been very bad.
Yeah, they showed an onboard from Scott Dixon's car, and he came through the debris field. There was a tire bouncing driver's right, and in fact, a piece of bodywork got stuck in the left front suspension area where he had to come in and pull it out. But again, I don't know how, but Daly was okay.
I'm just saying that could have been real bad if he went
And-
into him, like look what happened to was it Mike Harmon at Bristol when
When the car split in half.
the car just
Yeah.
disintegrated
And then
and then
he-
another
he
car
just-
came through
And
and
then he just sits up and gets out.
I mean, it was an incredibly frightening accident. What's funny is you see a lot of the knee-jerk reaction from some people who are involved and invested in the sport. Tony DeZino, who's a writer for NBC Sports, he tweeted right away, I hate this explicit. I don't know if we're allowed to use the S word on here or not.
No.
But and now he's a writer. I mean, he's an assistant writer for NBC Sports and the sports car and IndyCar coverage, and that was his reaction. Then he kind of backpedaled a little bit. I love the guy and I love his comments, and he's very interactive on social media. But that was the original stance because it seems like this always happens when IndyCar is on an oval, other than Indianapolis. And I kind of disagree with that stance. I think a wreck like that could have happened anywhere. Could have happened at Indy.
Yeah,
less
it
than there.
absolutely-
Not necessarily like Alabama or something. It's,
No, I understand, but the way that Newgarden's car got pitched up on its side, it can happen anywhere if hit at the right angle and the right time. So it was just a bizarre incident. But again, the good thing is that Newgarden's going to be okay. But that kind of started the 30 laps of caution, which ended up in the cleanup, which that was another thing that kind of bothered
were
me a
they
little
trying
bit.
really hard to get to halfway?
Yeah, it seemed like that they were, why not stop the race? I mean, they kept driving through the debris field under caution.
I'm sure
halt
once
the
they got
race
to halfway, they would have stopped it.
Oh, of course. But they didn't quite get
IndyCar
there.
really doesn't like stopping the race, though. Like, it's not like this was an exception.
This is true. However, if you think back to Fontana last year when they had the late yellow with Sato and Power, they did red flag the race, try to get a green flag finish. So they have done that before. And in this particular instance, when you're attending to a driver on the track and there's debris everywhere, you might as I mean, yeah, granted they were taking the cars down pit
But
road,
if you're not causing a safety issue, you got to try to get it to halfway.
which is I think what they were doing.
Like they're a business as well as like an entertainment. They have to come back in August to run like
What's it
2/3
going to
of a
cost
race.
them to move
Do you know
everything
the
back
expense
there?
for everybody? Not even just IndyCar, like all the teams. Any fans that want to come to it to run 2/3 of a race.
Well, that
it's
was going to be
crazy.
the next point that we brought up. Then, as Eric alluded to, for those of you who don't know, what ended up happening was the race, it started to rain again. They sat through it about 6 p.m. Sunday afternoon. They made a decision, no, we're not coming back Monday. We're not coming back Tuesday. Robin Miller and Stephen Wilson were lobbying to try to get them to come back on a Wednesday night. That's not going to happen. Instead, they're going to go back August 27th to try to finish the race.
I don't want to be a jerk, but why wouldn't Monday have worked? I mean, was it more bad
There
weather?
were
Or?
two. I think there was bad weather on the horizon, and there was a mandatory test day for some teams at Road America on Tuesday.
Okay.
So there was a fear of being able to transfer resources. Plus, you had guys like Dixon and Bourdais who had to hop on a plane to France to get ready for Le Mans. So this was really a perfect storm of just bad circumstances, and some of which I will put a little weight on the IndyCar series and the sanctioning body itself, and a lot of it you can't. But now, like you said, Eric, with the decision to come back in August, from what I've read, they're going to have a practice session, then they're going to have an autograph session, and then they're going to run the end of the race. So I guess they're trying to give fans enough bang for their buck to try to come back to the track and see if they can wrap this thing up. I have questions that I've not yet seen answered. I don't know what happens to the cars that were damaged. I don't know what happens to Newgarden and Daly.
They get to save money and stay home.
So, well, that's probably what's going to happen, considering it's a suspended race. But, I mean, what about, like, Dixon? We saw he had suspension damage when he came in, or he might have, and they pulled the bodywork out.
You can't impound the cars for that long.
Exactly. So, and I mean, as one article on Racer Magazine points out, Hinchcliffe was scored the leader. So that means he's going to remain the leader of that race through X amount of IndyCar races between now and the 27th of August. So it's a very – I don't ever recall a race being suspended and restarted anything more than 1 or 2 days, ever.
I don't know what you want me to say. You're like,
I
staring
got
at me.
nothing.
It's not like I'm not throwing anything at you guys. There's plenty of stuff to touch on here.
I'm itchy.
All right, then.
So, how's it going?
Was that a pickup line?
I'm
we
exhausted,
just-
man.
I think we
I've
just
worked
stalled out.
nonstop races from Saturday, all day Saturday, and most of Sunday.
How was that, by the way?
It was good. I'm just really still worn out.
lot of driving back and
Oh
forth?
yeah, I was driving all over the place.
So you were in Millville Saturday morning.
It was like
Wall.
it was about 400 miles. I guess you can't really say it's that much, but 400 miles of driving.
Yeah, but in addition to working,
Yeah, and being standing in the sun all day and
burning the candle at
got a
both
little
ends.
more tan.
You are darker.
Yeah, I'm extra crispy.
So to close out the IndyCar story, I mentioned that Robin Miller and Stephen Wilson really were trying to promote the idea of maybe having a midweek primetime race for the series. I'm curious as to what you guys think about that. And we know that the Truck Series in NASCAR does that for Eldora and Bristol. Do you think that would have been an opportunity to present
I think
the series to a larger platform?
I think the last Sprint Cup race should be like a midweek primetime race.
Now the
'Cause
argument
it's going against football.
The argument from the track side, now they didn't argue this directly, it's more of people who are in favor of the track and what they would have to deal with, is that it would hurt fans trying to get there. However, but the tickets were already bought and paid for, so they're not going to be losing any more ticket revenue.
But I mean, how many people had hotel rooms and this and that? Well, now the hotel room would probably be cheaper midweek, but
Right, but they're going to have to come back anyway. So you might as well try to do something on a positive side to benefit the series, because I kind of agree with you, Eric. If I have much more significant plans on that particular day, which I probably will, because I believe we're racing at Wall that day, I'm not going to want to stick around to watch the last 2/3 of a race that started a month and a half earlier, or almost 2 months earlier. It just doesn't make sense.
I mean, I guess that's what's in their rule book.
That's what Jay Fry had said. Fry, of course, being pretty much the competition
You
director
may
for the
want to
series.
change in the future that if you have to move the race like more in a week, you just start the weekend over. That might be a better plan.
And I think
allow them to
You can honor
bring
the fans.
fresh
You can honor
cars.
the fans' tickets. Allow them to bring fresh cars, new qualifying, new practice.
So
Everything.
Newgarden will be back in it.
well, now Newgarden.
And what happens if they do some spec changes to like to the downforce of the cars.
Yeah,
Did it go back for that race?
I don't know if they're going to do that, even though it is going to be after Pocono. In fact, it's going to be the week after the Pocono race. So there is a chance something could come up that they realize they have to change between Pocono and Texas. But I don't know how that's going to work. And I don't know how many times the car that Hinchcliffe's using to lead that race is going to be used and if they're going to be able to maintain it in its current condition between then and now.
But I can almost guarantee you there's a lot of people locked in a room probably yesterday, maybe today, that have been asking all these questions and figured out answers to
Well,
it.
apparently, according to Racer.com, Verizon IndyCar Series teams unanimously backed the decision to suspend the Texas Motor Speedway race for 2.5 months after a rain delay, and this is according to track president Eddie Gossage. So to me, that was a little bit surprising. He said that they were going to work together to try to have a full race on August 27th. It's a one-day only with a practice session, an autograph session, and all the drivers, and then the race. And that's the best way to serve the fans. The problem was that the president of competition and operations, the aforementioned Jay Fry, he really wanted to stick to the rule book because he feels that IndyCar has made up so much stuff as they go along.
Any
in the
racing,
past,
any
so why do it
racing
again?
rule book says, all this is at the official's interpretation.
Yeah, so the wiggle room is there to make some changes, but I think they elected not to do it. Somebody did suggest.
Well, could we have a team or driver vote on? All right, look, here's the situation. Bring it up to all the teams and say, here's what we're thinking we're going to do or what we would like to do. What do you guys think?
Well, the teams did back the decision to move the race. As far as all this other stuff we're tossing around, I don't know.
I mean, it's you want to keep. I know it's impossible to keep everybody happy, but I mean, if you're gonna go against something or seemingly go against something in the rule book, maybe it's best to
I mean, I did see a report that the series may contemplate shaving off that 30 laps of yellow that they ran before they stopped the race, right up until the New Garden wreck. But then to me, that opens up the question: okay, do we pretend that the New Garden wreck never happened? And
Yeah,
he's
you're
allowed to
going
get
back in time here.
So Dixon pitted for that repair while under that caution. So where does that put him? So there's a ton of questions that I'm going to have if that happens as well. And I think a lot of this is still going to be ironed out. We'll see. But I think it was one of the most interesting topics of the weekend, and it's something that's still unfinished, and it's not going to be finished for about 2.5 months.
You can bypass any rule if all the teams agree to it.
Agreed.
Well, if I'm Hinchcliffe...
And that might be what's happening.
We'll have to see. Let's see how it all unfolds. Now, if you're a ticket holder, and you had a ticket to that race, whether you live locally or you don't, do you make a conscious effort to go back to that race if it's only going to be 2/3 distance?
Depends
I'd
what
look
you
at
have
my
going on.
schedule, but here's the thing. I mean, I'm not in a position that I could just be like, all right, well, now I got to take vacation time. I don't have vacation time.
There's a lot of people in that situation.
So I'm just saying, some people might have the money and the means to, I would love to. I would love to try and consider it, but I know that it would be a long shot, and I think they should have an option. We will honor your ticket, or we can give you a refund.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's...
I'm just saying for the
that's
people
flirting with
in
Pandora's box.
a little bit. I'm just saying give them the option, or say I don't know. I'm just saying
Yeah,
people
I don't know
in
what
my
you do, because
It's
the thing is,
not-
I think IndyCar is
weather
almost,
is not something you ever refund for.
and
And you can't set that precedent.
the relationship between IndyCar and Texas Motor Speedway has appeared to have been turbulent over the last 2 or 3 years since Circuit of the Americas popped up. And even in that situation, I mean, IndyCar is not drawing the number of people that it used to. I don't think you can put a stipulation like that in your ticket policy because you're just increasing your chances of it being a loss.
Well, I mean, can they up it a little bit to encourage someone like myself who would have to travel?
Now, I would argue that I think, and maybe you could attest to this too, Eric, that the value of an IndyCar Series ticket is pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
We don't pay that much to go to Pocono for the last couple of years. Plus the pit, I think it costs us under $100 for a ticket for general admission
And a pit pass. Yeah.
and a pit pass, and you can see the whole track from that perspective. So I think the ticket itself isn't that much money, and then if you're going to start, but I would understand if some people wanted their money back, considering the really crazy set of circumstances.
I'm not even talking about I have a wedding that day, I can't go. I'm talking about there's travel and hotel expenses and things like that, and that's significant.
Which is why I'm surprised that a number of the teams.
What percentage of people go to an IndyCar race and get a hotel, though? I think it draws mostly
A
local.
night
people.
race. Hang on.
Not Indianapolis, of course, but
Well, I'm talking. This in particular was a night race, right?
Yeah.
So
Originally scheduled to be a night race.
I'll tell you what I do. If I'm going to go somewhere that's going to be a night event, concert, race, whatever, I'd rather get the hotel room for that night. So after it's over, I can go get some rest and then head home.
I don't know if a lot of people would do that though.
Well, you'd be surprised. There are a lot of IndyCar hopefuls that travel to select tracks throughout the year. I mean, if you check out a bunch of like those forums, like there's that RevEd, that track forum website or whatever, where a lot of people talk about those things, they're like diehards. There are also a lot of those open wheel traditionalists who don't want to see any head protection put over the cockpit of the race car. So, which is something else that Jay Fry was kind of hesitant on talking
It's
about.
coming to Formula One next year.
And it feels like that IndyCar is not yet willing to decide on what design they would like to roll with, which is bizarre.
Formula One's going with Ferrari's design.
The Halo concept.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see how that all plays out. Now, speaking of Formula One, we had Canada this past weekend. I don't know about you guys, but I was kind of preoccupied with what was going on in the Cup race and the IndyCar race. I do know who won. Everything between that and maybe Rosberg
I
spinning on the
couldn't
last
watch
lap,
it
because
I was at New Jersey Motorsports Park, and that horrible incident happened in Orlando, and it kind of messed the TV schedule. So everything
Right.
I taped was off.
And of course,
it's
if we
completely
happen to have-
understandable.
if you haven't had anybody, not even just in South Florida, but of course, we want everyone to know we're thinking about everyone involved in that situation. It was just it was awful news to wake up to on Sunday morning. It was just tragic.
Josh and I worked in the amusement park industry for a long time, and a lot of our friends moved down to Orlando, and they actually lost a few friends from this, so it's kind of sad. But
Just
it's just
and, we're fortunate that we have things such as the world of motorsports that we can turn our attention to kind of take our minds off that for a little while. But like you said, reality somewhat sets in, and every now and then it even intrudes on what we had planned. And that
although I
kinda
do want to
happened
say, because the Formula One original broadcast was moved, and then they had the replay, and for some reason they felt the need. It wasn't like news coverage; they felt the need to put golf over it. That's unacceptable.
here.
Just
Yeah,
saying.
that happened to not
If
make
it was
any
news,
sense
if it was
whatsoever.
news coverage, I'd be like, all right, cool. It's like completely understandable. People gotta know what's going on. There's family members that are trying to find out what's going on in their family. But golf, come on.
It didn't make any sense. But I think the long and short of it is that the start was decent. Vettel looked strong at the beginning. Hamilton ended up taking the reins, and he went on to score his
Those
second win of the year.
Mercedes are pretty bad on the start.
Now, there was another incident between Hamilton and Rosberg, no? Early
Yeah,
in the race?
right in the first turn. It was basically Hamilton had the opportunity to let Rosberg in, but of course he didn't. So for some reason, people think you're supposed to be a good teammate. None of the teams do it, but it's always a story when it's a Mercedes team.
Well, yeah, because they've been
But
the
you see
king
the
for last 3 years.
but you see the other teams. They don't help each other out. So I don't know why it's expected out of Mercedes.
So you end up having Hamilton grabbing the win, and then Rosberg's trying to
Rosberg
fight
got
his way
shuffled back to 10th on the first lap, and then basically was just trying to work his way back up.
And he did get up to Verstappen on the final corner or the final lap?
Final lap. They called it brilliant defending. I had my official hat on. Now, on a road course, you're allowed to zig to block somebody. You're not allowed to zag. And I saw Verstappen going back and forth. And that's the same thing in Formula One. I guess they're saying it was the last lap. I know if it was earlier in the race, they would have called it. And I might have the same philosophy, too, on the last lap. You're fighting for the finish of the race. It's a little touchy. And I know Rosberg wasn't happy with Verstappen about that.
But Verstappen has been incredibly impressive considering the opportunity that kind of fell in his lap, and he's made more than the most of it ever since.
Yeah, he's a young dude. And
I think Red Bull's happy with him. Now, this week they have that new, how do you pronounce it? Baku? B-A-K-U?
Baku, yeah. It's in Uzbekistan.
That's where it is?
Bless you.
They're
Yes.
calling it the
Baku's the city,
the European Grand Prix? Or the
which
Grand Prix
people
of
are
Europe?
kind of upset about. Because it's the European Grand Prix, which is normally in, one of the Eastern European countries.
Right.
I mean, Western European country, I'm sorry. And for some reason, Europeans consider Eastern Europe, because it's a former Soviet Union.
Now, the last few new tracks that we've seen on the Formula One calendar involve permanently designed road courses, like Circuit of the Americas and Abu Dhabi, and the other Tilka domes, like Russia.
This one goes around a castle.
Yeah, this is going to be the first new street course, I think, since Singapore, which I think was in the late 2000s.
Singapore is still more, even though it's a street course, it's still kind of designed like a racetrack.
Right.
So I mean, because they still have runoff areas, and drivers can try to overtake and without being, concerned with if they screw up 1 inch, they're going to go into a barrier.
But this track looks like it's going to be a little bit of
It's
a
going to be a
wider
cluster F there,
version of
Brennan.
Monaco.
No, only in certain areas. In certain areas, it gets tighter.
Yeah.
Like around that castle, you could barely fit 2 cars in there.
Yeah, I saw the
like a
track
goat-
layout
it's like a
that
goat
we
path.
were kind of looking over and stuff, and I'm excited to see how it all plays out. I got to look up when practice starts.
I'm calling it now. Although I was wrong about Monaco, but if it rains and then dries out, it's gonna be a great race. It needs something like that to happen.
It's really funny that
This is gonna be a cluster F.
we had, or you had talked about rather, a rain going into dry, or wet going into dry type
Yeah.
race, and how it's more exciting and more challenging.
It's a golden unicorn.
I swear, like 2 days later, or that right after we recorded that episode, that following weekend, they were talking about that. I think for the Indy race.
Yeah, well, I've experienced
was it
it.
the doubleheader?
Get ready to roll
Yes.
your eyes, Eric Brennan. I've experienced it many times with karting. It's just an awesome experience. Yeah, but it is an awesome experience seeing it go from wet to dry. You have some guys on wet tires, some guy on dry tires, and all of a sudden the dry tires will just in one lap they'll kick in, and all of a sudden they're flying. It's cool.
Barrichello.
But Baku's gonna be rough.
But remember, Rubens Barrichello got his first win by staying on the wet tires and trying to drive through whatever puddle he could find.
How does Josh remember that?
He's got a good memory. He may not be.
That's like an Eric Brennan fact.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Kudos.
He was with Ferrari.
Talking about Tony DeZino, I'm going to credit him for giving us a schedule. Practice will be at 9 a.m. on Friday, qualifying also 9 a.m. on Saturday, and then the race coverage begins on NBCSN at 8 a.m. on Sunday. I'm excited. Looking forward to watching that one.
It's going to be different. Basically, if you ever watch Formula E, it reminds me very much of a Formula E track. It's just these cars aren't really designed for that. There are 2 very long straights, so I mean that's a thing. It's a lot of 90-degree turns, which 90-degree turns don't really lead to much passing.
That's a thing.
Yeah, well, I don't even want to call that a thing. It's basically it's a streets. It's Long Beach. Think Long Beach. There you go.
Yeah,
Long Beach kind of sucks.
Well, it did this year, and
It's had a
before,
history of, and
yeah.
the year before that, and the year before that. So, but instead of going around a fountain, they go around a castle, which is pretty cool. This castle's really old, like really old.
Like
They could destroy a world landmark if a car gets up in there, and it is possible. So there's not much protection on the castle. So that's like.
So is that something?
Watch for that.
To root
Instead of
for,
like
or-
Monaco, where cars can go in the water, here they can crash into a castle.
I'd like to think it's built
It's not
fairly
something
sturdy.
It's a castle, yeah. I'm not worried about the castle so much, but it could damage it a little. It's this. Go on YouTube. Watch in-car footage of this track. Like Formula One made a like animated thing. That's okay. But watch the actual in-car footage. They took like a Formula 3 car on the track. Oof.
I'm going to check this out in the break.
You didn't watch it?
No, I didn't see that one. I saw the overhead map where it shows.
Staten
the
Island
red
Jim
lines
watched it,
and
wasn't he?
stuff. Yeah, I'm going to watch it now. Man, is Staten Island Jim here?
He should come on the show.
should.
If he'd say more than 3 words, we'd invite him on the show.
If he comes here before we get him to Wall Stadium Speedway, there's a huge problem.
That is true.
Like enormous.
Could kidnap him and force him from that point.
That sounds exciting.
Jim looks like he could fight back.
He could. He's going to be.
He's going to be a cop.
But it'd be 3 versus 1, though, wouldn't it?
He probably could still fight back.
Oh, yeah, I forgot you.
And he works at Toys R Us, so you got to be pretty tough to work there. I worked there once.
Especially on Staten Island.
Yeah.
Those people are savages.
Like, where's the toys? And he goes, they're over here.
All right, well, when we come
I
back.
could be talking about wieners.
When we come back to the RPM podcast.
So watch this Baku video, Eric, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about NASCAR, right? But real quick, I just want your opinion. I want everyone to hear your opinion when you see this track.
So am I going to watch it right
Josh is
going to
watch it too.
Right,
You're going to watch it. Watch it.
I want
You're
to
going to watch it.
I'm not watching anything.
You're going to watch it,
Okay.
and then just give a quick opinion of what you think. And
Okay.
Josh will too.
When we come back. I hope that wasn't copyrighted. Otherwise, we just ruined 16 weeks of perfection.
We're good. We're good.
All right, as Eric said, when we come back, we're going to talk about the new downforce package that was debuted at Michigan, also who walked away with the trophy, what we thought of the racing, the Xfinity and Truck Series winners, and some other small stories, and then we'll eventually talk about our local short track. We'll be right back to the RPM podcast. Stay with us. Hey everyone, this is Eric Brennan from the RPM Podcast. If you're looking for a dependable full auto repair and preventative maintenance center, then you need to check out O'Shea's Auto Repair in Wall, New Jersey. The family man himself, Tim O'Shea, has been providing the highest quality of automotive repair since 2000 on both domestic and imported cars, trucks, and SUVs. From race cars to street cars, O'Shea's Auto Repair covers it all. For more information, visit their website at o'sheasautorepair.com. O'Shea's Auto Repair, supporter of the RPM Podcast and proud sponsor of the O'Shea Auto Repair Factory Stocks at Wall Stadium Speedway. Welcome back to the RPM Podcast. Once again, it's Eric Brennan, Eric Graham, and our boy Josh Matthews. Yeah, the NHRA was just in Englishtown this past week.
Yeah, actually, my 9 to 5 job sent me there for a little bit to drop some stuff off. They're a sponsor of it.
Well, check this out. According to Fox Sports PR, the NHRA Summer Nationals at Englishtown scored 1,068,000 viewers Sunday. That's up 429% from 2015's numbers. And then it's also up 734% from the ages of 18 to 49. Fox must be doing something right with their coverage. That's huge.
I think timing is part of it, too.
That would help as well.
A lot of times I get to watch it, and it's tape delayed, which does have an advantage of they can cut out somebody, let's say a motor blows up. I mean, the cleanup.
Down or, yeah.
Oh, the cleanup is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to go, okay, they're going to clean that up, and then, go right back to it. Next.
Now, I don't have the numbers for the Cup race at Michigan, but I do have a couple of opinions on it. I'm hoping you guys do also.
Wait. We were supposed to talk about Baku real quick.
Did you watch that video?
Oh, I did. When they come up to that castle, that's nuts. I don't think it's going to be
that's
that
a
bad.
Holy crap moment.
It's wild. Now, when they shot that video with that car, what did you say it was an F3?
It looks like an F3 car.
Treaded tires.
When they shot that video, it looks like you come up to the base of the castle, and there's no wall there yet. I'm sure there will be come race day. But that's pretty wild.
We'll see.
They can't just leave the exposed column of the castle.
Rally cars do it.
Yeah, but that's a little different.
No.
I kind of thought it was wild. Josh, you watched the same video as I did.
Well, the castle wall is kind of the apex of the turn, though. So that one little piece might be exposed.
You might
They're going to put some black marks on it?
They might.
That would be cool.
Now, can we move on to the Cup race?
Maybe.
You really didn't like it that much? I thought it was awesome.
What, the Cup race?
It looks cool. It's like Monaco. It looks cool. I just don't know if it's going to lead to good racing.
I think it'll be okay.
It's a wide track in some portions. I mean,
portions. Other portions, it gets really narrow. So if they're going, side by side through a couple turns, you better figure that
but
crap
they ever
out
go
quick.
side by side through a couple turns in Formula
Sometimes.
1? Usually it's one,
Sometimes.
if that.
I can recall a few times.
More often than NASCAR.
I would argue that.
There's more. One thing you can't argue is that there's more contact in F1 than there is in NASCAR.
Lately, there has been.
Yes.
But
Which
Sunday
is a
was a bit of
problem.
an exception with the Cup race at Michigan. For whatever reason, I think they're dubbing this the 2017 rules package because they tested the same package today at Kentucky Speedway, the newly repaved Kentucky Speedway. And I kind of liked what I saw. Joey
I don't
Logano
think
went
they
on the
should
win.
stop.
Exactly. They need to keep moving this direction. Now, Michigan is a very fast, newly resurfaced racetrack. So it's hard to get a full handle on how things are going to play out because they're going into the corner at 216 plus miles an hour. And yes, I think if you're alongside of anybody, regardless of spoiler height, you can loosen up and slide up the racetrack. It was fun to see restarts where cars started sliding around all over the place. It was fun to see guys like Earnhardt Jr. was an innocent victim, but Truex had a problem. Trevor Bayne had a problem.
Truex is back into Truex luck.
I mean, we saw a lot of good guys have problems on their own, just losing grip of the race car. We saw a wreck in qualifying, in single car qualifying, which hasn't happened unless the steering wheel is popped off or something fluky. We see
Or your
a
hood
limit.
just decides to catch air the wrong way. And
Yeah. So that's what I was looking for as a NASCAR fan. I wanted there to be a more obvious sign of a line in the sand between going over the edge and staying on the edge. And I feel like that on the edge line for the last few years has been so wide that you could be off the pace but still be well in control, or you could be above what the car's capabilities are, but there's little to no consequences. Now it seems like there's a limit, and we've established a line in the sand. But like you said, Eric, I think we need to keep on going forward with it.
I think you just gotta get the air back under the car.
The one change I would still love to see is the elimination of the front splitter entirely and the return of the front valence. That's just a thing of mine.
I'll go with that direction. I like how they
How they put a production car spoiler in the rear of the car.
That was wild. I mean, that thing was tiny.
Well, they talked about. I can't remember if it was the broadcast, TV broadcast, or the MRN broadcast that I was listening to when the power went out. While I was
you had a fun weekend trying to watch this Cup race. We're sitting here complaining. I didn't happen to catch Formula One. He was at the racetrack. You were home trying to do your job, and the power shuts off.
I went outside to work on my wife's car for a minute during the to check on the brakes while they went to commercial, and I just heard. And a transformer blew, and we had no power.
Josh is getting all fancy.
Yeah, I like that little sound effect there. Sounds like what I hear at
Anyone
work
listening
every
this
day.
on headphones just curse Josh off.
I think we got to pay for about 1 million ear doctor appointments now, or 170.
Anyway,
Send your bill to Eric Brennan.
With a K.
Whatever. I get Eric with a C mail all the time. That's not going to stop it.
Anyway, so they were talking about a few years back. They tried the high drag package.
Correct. That would
with a giant spoiler. I see the idea. It's slowing the cars down, but it didn't work out as well. It's removing the downforce and lowering the power is, I think, what's going to be key.
You see, I don't. You know what? If we would have backpedaled, Graham,
lawnmower
weeks
engines.
Ago, if we would have backpedaled a couple weeks ago, we would say you want to give some of that power back. But now removing all that downforce increased straightaway speed by so much. I think some of the Penske guys, in fact, eventual winner Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski said that they think maybe they do need to step some of that power back because they are carrying so much speed in the corner, and that could hurt the racing aerodynamically.
Well, slowing the cars down is usually a good idea. But what I was saying, when you add power, it makes it a little harder for the cars to come off the turn. Like the driver's got to use their foot a little more. If you lower power, it's such a balance. If you lower power too much, then you could just jam your foot on the gas and
like karting, not your karting, not.
No, you can kind of do that in karting.
I couldn't in your kart. Anyway,
my car was strong like bull. Had to haul me around.
No, I'm saying more the rental, but not the boardwalk rentals. I'm talking about the
like a boardwalk rental. All you do is off. It's an on-off switch.
I never lift my foot on those things because they're too underpowered. I mean, you got to give them a little power. You have to lift and still have to learn to drive it, but limit it so that I mean. You know, I know, everybody knows, power to weight is a big deal, right? Especially in karting. You have smaller motors, and the more weight you put on. You need weight in certain spots, but, the kids can be really, really quick. Bigger guys, like yourself.
Oh, yeah, weight kills you in those.
Yeah.
Same thing in a legend car.
And how did you do when we went down to Millville last October?
I finished 4th.
Yeah.
That was respectable.
Yeah, but I don't think those karts are identically the same. I think
all right, the karts were definitely not all the same.
I was the most experienced kart racer there, so I was.
Yeah, but
you knew how to drive it, but at the same time, I think everyone, those karts are still limited on power. I mean, they're much faster than something you're going to find on, at your.
There's only one corner on that whole track you have to lift on.
It used to be worse.
I don't think I lifted on any corner.
You probably didn't.
You can go through. Not the king.
You talking about the first turn?
The first left.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can?
You slide the car, yeah.
I went in the dirt every time. Like my bottom was
in
sore.
a real car, you have to hit the brakes. There.
I thought I mutilated the under tray of that cart.
In a real car, that's one of the only
But-
places you have to hit the brakes.
But what I'm saying is that that setup, that amount of power, the brakes are usually junk. I don't know. The tires aren't anything special. We don't set air pressures because they're just. It is what it is. You get what you get. But everybody I thought was pretty well matched. I mean, I thought it was a fair field. I mean, we started, double file without telling anybody at the track.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. We kind of rebelled a little bit.
You said you backed out.
No. I know the manager there. Steve. He's great. He knew what we were doing. I told him what we were going to do.
The thing is, it's not like we were inexperienced drivers.
You saw the other people there that were destroying stuff and almost getting themselves hurt.
Yeah.
Like, even though we raced very hard, like, we weren't destroying their equipment.
We knew what I say. We had a clue what we were doing. I mean, I'm not saying
You had a bunch of race car drivers and Eric Brennan and my cousin Sam, and then
At least Sam got thrown in there because
I
usually
think
I'm the odd man
I think
out
we
over
took
there.
turns.
You
we
ran
all
Sam.
we all took turns. I put Sam in the dirt. It was great. He tried to pass me on the
All right, so
outside.
now
I
this
teach him a
ties
lesson.
back to the
I'm a
NASCAR
heat race
discussion.
winner. I'm a heat race winner.
Well aware.
Anyway, so my point is, so it became a really awesome match. I mean, it was difficult to pass, but we could trade spots a little bit, and you could. And there's a
Well,
nice chicane.
We do the factory stock challenge. Maybe we can do one for the podcast too.
We could definitely set something up. But there's
We
that
got
one.
enough race car drivers to listen to us. I'm sure we'd be able to fill the.
I'm just
fill the
saying,
field.
there's that chicane. I mean, you can get a good run on somebody, but guess what? If you don't completely clear them on that turn, you're on the
I
outside.
went through the dirt a few times on that.
Okay, so
But you
now,
don't let off. You
for
just
the handful of people
No.
who have no idea what we're talking about, let's loop this back to NASCAR somehow.
I'm just trying to point out that there's a certain amount when you have low power.
Somebody's good at pissing.
Well, 'cause we're getting close on time here, and I'm trying to make sure we put a period on this thing.
This is why I make wiener jokes. Because you start getting all serious. Okay, Josh, let's stop talking about racing.
We can
No,
talk
no.
about whatever we want. I'm just saying I got to put a ribbon on this somehow.
Okay, they
this
took
is still,
downforce off the cars, and they're getting very loose, and they actually have to drive again.
Hang on,
It's good. They're going the right direction.
I hear Eric Brennan talking.
My vagina.
Ah, boy.
Anyway,
So Logano led 138 laps, so he essentially still kind of dominated, so it wasn't the best race. But look at some of the guys who had good runs. Chase Elliott second, Larson third.
he's looking the other way on purpose.
Tony Stewart was seventh, Austin Dillon eighth, McMurray ninth in his best run of the year. And then you had other guys who had problems that you wouldn't expect. We talked about Junior getting caught up in a wreck. AJ Allmendinger had trouble. Denny Hamlin had a tire go down. And we saw a couple other guys have some issues. Paul Menard usually always runs good at Michigan. He was off the pace all weekend. So I think they're heading in the right direction. On the Xfinity side, we finally saw Mexican-born driver Daniel Suarez get his first win. That was great to see. And he did it by beating the best driver in the series, Kyle Busch. And in the truck
Viva la
series
NASCAR.
race, Rico Abreu was so close to grabbing his first ever truck series
Are you saying
win.
he just came up a little short?
You must have been waiting for all 16 episodes to say that.
I actually just thought of that as you were saying it.
All right. Well,
I didn't watch a truck race.
Is that
I don't know
gray
what happened.
hair on the front of your head?
Yeah, I have gray hair.
Oh,
I'm an old man. I have some
I
more hair.
have gray hair too. Anyway, actually, I think I posted a status.
People are going to stop IDing you soon.
No.
Yeah, listen. Gray hair is a real telltale sign.
Anyway, I remember I posted back when Kanan won the I think it was the 500.
They won by a
2013.
nose.
So Kanan wins by a nose.
Yes. Well, he was so close. He chased down William Byron, got to his back bumper, and he jumped the cushion and slapped the wall. So Byron ended up winning. I think Crafton was about second, if I remember correctly. And speaking of Crafton, the ThorSport team, which fields trucks for Crafton, Abreu, Rhodes, and Cameron Haley,
Does ThorSport have anything left?
they had a devastating fire in their shop in Ohio.
They said they'll be at the next race.
And I believe, fortunately for
That car
them,
was in the trailer.
most of the Iowa trucks were on the trailers already. So they were able to be salvaged. Everything else looks like it's gone. I mean, it's bad.
Yeah, it looks real bad. That building's done.
Kyle Busch Motorsports offered a lending hand to them, which is nice to see. But from what we've seen today on social media is that they're basically on jack stands out in a parking lot somewhere working on those trucks this afternoon.
Factory stocks.
And now, since Josh just mentioned something, we'll go to the Wall Stadium review here really quickly as I'm trying not to go too far over on time.
Aren't we doing a third segment?
I thought we were. Apparently,
we're
we're
almost
not.
about an hour in already.
Was.
We're approaching. You guys were complaining all night that you're exhausted.
It doesn't mean I don't want to do this.
No, it's just I don't want to have that 45 minutes where you play on your phone and we keep going. Can we start? Can we start? Can we start? And then you're just sitting there.
I like playing on my phone. I'm doing it right now.
I'll have my wife cook us some hot dogs, dangle them.
You're probably
talking.
probably texting somebody.
That's probably the reason why I want to get this over with, so that way I can grab something to eat on the way home. Because usually by the time I get home, it's about 12 o'clock.
What are you gonna eat?
I was thinking steak if it's still open.
That's not what you're gonna eat.
There's a Wawa right around the corner.
Yeah, but I don't want anything from there.
You're gonna eat one of those tube steaks.
My goodness.
I could go for one.
You made fun of my gray hair, so who started picking first?
I tried to give a little back, and you just never mind.
And then what happens?
I
leave whenever I. This is why I pick on you constantly. Whenever I leave you alone, you start picking on me. Every time. And I kind of left you alone today, so you started picking on me.
Do you like it?
I just fight back.
Okay. I appreciate it.
You race people how they race you.
Yep.
You talk to people how they talk to you. You send me inappropriate gifts.
I got those from a correction officer.
Yeah, and they're
they're funny.
I guess they made you hungry.
No. It's so this past week at Ball Stadium, dirt modifieds were there. We saw Jimmy Blewett win that. He also went on to win the modified feature. Shannon Monjo got another win in the sportsman division feature. Jarrett DeGiant Tommaso second. That kid's having a great run. His first win's right around the corner. Joe Monjo crossed the finish line second in the eventful factory.
The sportsman race, okay? So a couple weeks ago, we had a lengthy red flag period because they had to repair a guardrail.
Correct.
So I go out there with our scorer, Tyler, and Lisa, and we give water to the drivers. Mm-hmm. So we come over to Jared's car, and he's over there taking selfies. He has his phone out, pulling his Brad Keselowski.
He's a good kid, and he's very talented, and he's done a lot in the last couple of years of having that car. In fact, I think if I remember correctly, when they debuted that car, his father practiced it for him and had stuck throttle and wadded it up like 1 week before opening night. And from that to where he's been running now, it's pretty incredible. And it's great to see that kid run well from Champ Guards. Legend car race, Mitchell Dowd ended up walking away with the checkered flag there. Robert French, who's come back from a wreck, was second. And our buddy Vinny Troya rounded out the podium. Limited late model feature, Mike Tillett with an emotional
He almost
win.
went a week without bringing you up, Vinny.
I couldn't help it. He's third.
He's like your man crush. It's a little awkward.
He's a good dude. I really wish I had more time to hang out with him a little bit. And
you're gonna end up on his doorstep someday in like a pink tutu. Hey, I'm over here now.
No, because every time, we could have went to New Egypt tonight for the race down there, and we were talking about it. And every time we meet up at the track, I usually have 1 or 2 beers with him, and I never give him any money. I never have anything for him, so I feel like I owe him a couple. So
couple what?
Beers, drinks.
That's what I said.
And
don't forget the late models.
Limited late models. Mike Tillett with an emotional win after losing his friend and teammate. I said Tommy Andreasen. It might be Andreasen, but they call him Tommy Boy on the crew, and they dedicated that win to him. Josh, you want to talk factory stocks? Jerry Stanzione ended up being credited with the win initially after he crossed the finish line first. However, he was disqualified, and our defending champion Joe Monjo got his first win. Oops. It was a wild race.
All right. Remember we had that whole talk about the factory stocks and that really, you said extremely entertaining race, which it was an entertaining race.
Yes.
But it was otherwise a wreck fest.
Yes.
How does this past weekend's race compare to that? Because I know we had a lot of cars that got wadded up.
I don't think this past weekend's race could rank as high as the one on May 7th.
The problem, it's different when, like the one big incident where luckily Ronnie's okay. Because that was scary. I mean, that was a car broke. So I don't count that as being like, dirty racing. No, I mean,
that was an unfortunate incident, but it looked like the 5 got...
something blew on the 5.
I saw the 5 and
came out of the right
bumping
front.
around one another. Dave Green, Jerry Koenig.
It was there was off of a restart, right? I mean,
I think it was a lap in.
It was okay,
so they were still pretty tight together. Yep. The 5 blew a right front. Something broke right front. He took a hard right up towards the fence. Ronnie was involved.
And then, unfortunately,
was it the
Ronnie got
44?
it from both ends, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a couple photos. It looks like Ronnie got stuffed into the wall.
The car's junk, but I mean, thankfully Ronnie's okay. So that's
yeah.
what's
I mean,
important.
there's some. I hate to use the word graphic because it's not. I don't know. I mean, it's not like blood and guts or anything like that, but it's a hard picture
If
to
you're a
look at.
gearhead, it's graphic.
Yeah, there's a lot of really stuff. His
If you race,
fuel
it's
cell.
graphic because you know how much work and money that is.
I saw a picture of his fuel cell is pretty bent up. I mean, that's junk now. I mean, again, it did its job.
It did its job, yeah.
Everyone is okay.
Well, it has the bladder in there too.
Yeah.
So it's
But I mean, still, otherwise a horrific wreck. And then two other cars got pretty badly damaged.
Yeah.
Was that under that same yellow?
and I mean,
It was
there
the yellow
there was
prior.
an 8-car
Okay.
there was an 8-car pileup in the sportsman race where a lot of cars got damaged. It was,
That doesn't surprise me.
anyway, it was an
blow,
expensive
Josh, low
day.
blow.
It was an expensive day. Luckily, the guys have a couple weeks to fix their cars because, as Eric's about to bring up, what's coming up this weekend?
Formula Drift comes to the 1/3
That's a
mile oval.
segue.
Well, you threw up the softball.
Was
Speaking
it was
of which,
a segue?
I want to say
Oh,
for
no.
the modified event, we had Jason Hearn up in the tower with us. I know a lot of the people in the grandstands weren't able to hear it, but I'm telling you, if you were able to, well, actually, you may not even hear it on Big Jim's version of it because a lot of the talking that Jason did was under yellow, and they don't really film that. Hearn was incredible. I mean, if I'm ever able to start a traveling team of production with Josh running the boards, Eric doing something with a white shirt on, and me doing some sort of
I
play-by-play
wear
work,
black.
and you do now, Hearn would be the perfect driver analyst because he hit every question on the head. He didn't beat around the bush. He even got asked a question that involved driver personality a little bit because with Blewett leading,
I
believe
know who our first guest should be.
it was Hearn would be incredible, actually. He really would. In fact, that's a good idea.
Ask him.
He did mention it to us, too. What to me.
He listens to us.
Yeah, he said he checked it out. He said he thinks we need
Why
to
do
do a
all
couple
you drivers
call-ins
listen to this crap? I'm just surprised by it.
I don't know.
Wait, so
Like, they usually have to hear my damn voice all Saturday night, and they're sick of it.
Yeah. No, he said he thinks we should do some call-ins. I said, we're close. So we have the technology where it needs to be. We just
I
need
think
to
we're
get
just a little
the product
scared.
tightened up a little bit. Yeah, well, we'd have to figure out how that would go. We'll talk about that off air.
I can do the.
But Hearn and if you're listening, you did an incredible job. And I think I kind of told you this enough when I saw you, so I'm making it weird now.
He even caught my attention, and I never listen to you guys.
Thanks.
He was doing, well,
I appreciate it.
It's part of the job.
Support.
Sometimes I listen to Earl, but anyway, I said when Dave Green's tire blew, I do remember you saying that the two cars got together because I was thinking it when it happened, and then the 2 turns later,
Was that-
horrible incident happened.
Was it Kenny Green in the 44?
Yes.
Yeah,
So that was pretty much a green sandwich.
yeah.
Dave Green and Ronnie, and then Kenny Green.
I'm sure
I
Ronnie
don't-
Ronnie would love to hear that.
It was a wild night. But Eric, as you mentioned, we got a couple weeks to get everything sorted out.
I think I'm gonna be helping out during Drift.
Are you?
Yeah.
They were asking for people to work Saturday. I originally said I was going to go down to help Vinny at Bridgeport, and it appears
Well-
that I'm bailing on that for a graduation party.
I
I think I'm gonna go to Grandview.
was asked for either day or both Friday, Saturday, but I'm working till God knows when on Friday. So,
I like to hit different tracks on my rare Saturdays off. So I had New Egypt, I had Bridgeport.
I was
So I
looking
covered
forward to
Jersey.
spending it with you guys and hoping
Come
you
to
guys were going to
Grandview.
work. No, I'm gonna.
Are you going to Formula D?
I might help your cousin.
It's an experience.
Is your cousin Nick?
My cousin Nick will be there. Yeah.
Okay, I think I might be helping him.
Hi, Nick.
Hey.
What's up, Nick? When we do come back to Wall, it'll be June 25th, the 55th annual Garden State Classic. 125 laps, $5,000 to win for the Downs Ford Modifieds.
That's
The
a
O'Shea
big night.
Auto Repair Factory stocks will be back in action, as well as the Surfside Collision 4-cylinder division and the ATQ MRA have been putting on some really exciting races at Wall this year. Will also be back in action, along with the Garden State Vintage Stock Car Club.
It has gotten better. Like the first couple quarter midget races were a little rough because it was yellow, 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 yellow. They seem to figure it
I
out.
mean, 3/4 midget races.
Yeah. You said quarter.
So, sorry, TQ
Burn.
3/4. You said like 4 things wrong today. I didn't correct you.
Yeah, no. There's
Because I'm not a douche.
No. Because there's not a lot of things I can get you on, so I have to swoop in when the opportunity presents itself. So that was one of them.
This is why I make wiener jokes.
All right. On the national level, the Cup Series is off. The Trucks and Xfinity Series will be in Iowa. We also have Formula
Good
1,
track.
the aforementioned Baku Grand Prix, the inaugural one. NHRA will be in Bristol, and
So how do they put
Golden
Baku-
Rallycross will be in Daytona.
I'm sorry. But how did they get Baku to go so quickly, like onto the schedule? And it's been, I don't know, 6 years that they were looking at New Jersey.
Now they're looking-
yes, money is.
Baku paid $40 million to have a race.
Yeah, but now they're looking at Vegas, and that appears to be gaining a little more momentum, perhaps just as much as what New Jersey once had.
See, the problem is Formula One's gaining a massive following in the United States.
Because we're promoting. No.
Yes, because of this. Because we're actually up to 200 people now, which is freaking crazy. A few weeks ago we were at 50. So keep telling your friends. I think I said that twice this episode.
It'll get a little better. I know we ramble sometimes and we say a couple stupid things, and there's a lot of inappropriate jokes about
There's a
one person
lot of
sitting here.
stupid things.
Yeah, but people like the inappropriate jokes
I don't know why. Why would you want to?
because they're
make
at your
fun of me?
expense.
You know what? Everything that is at my expense is rather funny.
Scapegoat.
I'll take it.
But I was making a point. I think.
Yeah, and I derailed it.
Yeah, you did.
You're welcome.
I just you
Well, you're
just
saying-
you just pulled a me on me. So
Our viewership is up.
the problem is, Circuit of the Americas is in financial trouble. So it's in Formula One's best interest to find another location to have a race. They just announced today that there's this big 2 road course, like think New Jersey Motorsports Park on steroids, 2 road course facility in Arizona being built. And then one's going to be an FIA track, which is Formula One, and one's going to be an FIM certified track, which is like MotoGP. And they're also going to have a world-class karting facility, which means I might be working there at some point. But and they're going to have an airport built with it too. It's a crazy place they're building. If you could check it out, I'll try to link it to our site.
Yeah, how far it is from Phoenix?
No, but
stay
I'll
with my
find out.
brother.
I saw it. You know when you spend your 45 minutes playing on your phone?
Yeah.
I was actually looking at racing news, and I saw that it was announced today. They're breaking ground next year, so I imagine it'll be open sometime in 2018. So you might see Vegas dropped for this place.
For the record, when I am looking at my phone, I am looking at racing-related stuff.
That's not true.
Typically,
You
sometimes it is.
you send Josh and I links to what you're looking at, and I can't even say it on here.
Hold on. That was not a link. That was a direct video, and it involves something that was given to me in prison.
There you go. You have your new opener for next week. There, you don't want so many wieners.
That's not what I meant.
Oh my!
There you go.
I thought the
Can we do
play-by-play
the-
announcers
Josh,
had to be
can we
like
do
3
the-
steps ahead, and you
Josh,
were.
can we please do the intro again next week with that in it?
That was only 2.5.
We'll try. I can do it.
Something that was given to you in prison. These nuts got him.
Well, while everyone's imagination is running wild, I will say that we'll be back next week with the RPM podcast. There's tears in your eyes.
You too.
There is.
Just like in prison.
If Brendan is brave enough to show up after what we put him through.
I'll
Is that
always
why
be
you're
back.
walking funny when you came here?
It's sad because I was. I don't know what to say now. Thanks. Maybe we'll
Keep
get.
telling your friends about us. Like, it's crazy how quickly we're growing.
Maybe we'll get
I
somebody
thought like
crazy
3
enough to
people
come
would
on
be
here.
listening to us. I thought it'd be like, my cousin
I
Sam
figured-
and Staten Island Jim.
I figured
we
it'd be
lost my
family
mom.
only. Like, oh, thanks,
Because
Mom, you came to the game.
My mom has like no internet connectivity in Arizona, so we lost her. So that's like an imaginary +1.
The first couple episodes, you were just saying hi to your mom.
Yeah, that's why. I've
But I
said it in
mean,
a while.
like, I don't know about you. I go to a wall and people are constantly talking to me about the show.
I'm
Yeah.
amazed.
Well, we'll see where it goes.
I'm
we have
having a
big
lot of
dreams,
fun
big
doing
visions
this.
for it. Same here. I laugh a lot and I cry, which I'm doing now. Tears of joy. But no. In all seriousness, we have a little bit of a plethora of people on the local level that want to get involved, and we also have some people on the national level that we want to get involved.
If there's someone you want to have on the show,
Please,
let us
message
know.
us.
If you want to be on the show, let us know.
We have multiple.
If you're not scared, I mean, a lot of people like you put a microphone in their face and they panic.
Yeah, especially if they hear what comes out of your mouth.
Well, I wouldn't pick on drivers.
You sure? I think
Depends
you
who it
would.
was.
Yeah. See,
Well, the thing is, being an official, they'd probably start picking on me, and then I'd have to fight back.
you claim this self-defense thing. I didn't do anything to deserve a lot of this.
Do you really want me to talk about this stuff in public?
All right, we don't. All right. We're not going to get into that.
You're constantly antagonizing me. There's camera footage of it, of you trying to touch me in inappropriate areas.
This is so not true. This is so not true. That is a lie.
I'm constantly fighting you
That
off.
is a lie.
Anyway,
Now he's gonna try to cut that out of the podcast.
No, because it's not true.
Okay.
anyway,
Only partial.
Yeah.
so I really think we should have some people on. I think
We have a fourth microphone now, right?
Yeah,
Like, that
yeah,
was a
a fourth
problem for
headset,
a while.
yeah,
so
yeah.
Someone wants to come to Waretown.
So, but again, we have multiple ways for you to contact us. I mean, if you want to comment on our YouTube videos, if you want to comment on our Facebook page, message us on our Facebook page. We also have our Gmail account. Graham?
Oh, really? racingpodcastnj@gmail.com.
I had you do it because I had a burp coming up.
We're open and honest here on the RPM podcast.
Yeah, you can't argue that. Anyway, so please email us, message us.
I think we're ready to have guests on. I mean,
I think we.
the weird thing, like, people freeze in front of the microphone. That's what I'm concerned with. Like, you and I, Josh and I both worked at Six Flags for a long time, so like we were just used to being on the microphone. And you're working on doing this for a living, so, and you love to talk
I
anyway.
don't know how that's going.
I think
all
you
this.
talk. I think you announce races in your sleep. It's kind of weird.
No, I just watch TV.
I clean pools in my sleep right now, so it's. Yeah, I believe it. But I think we're not polished. It's a podcast, so we have a little more freedom to be open and stuff. We don't have to like rush to a
I
commercial
don't
break.
think
things
anyone
like
would
that.
listen to us if we were just another show like other. If we were ESPN, I don't think people would listen to us.
It depends on how it gets up.
Like,
to
people
that
listen
level.
to podcasts because they're different.
As long
People
as,
like the banner with us. That's what the feedback I get.
well, I'd like to see more
Especially
banter.
Gary. Hi, Gary Larson. There's your bitch. He thought that was hilarious. It's funny because it's
Nothing?
true.
No comment.
That hurts his feelings a little bit.
Yeah.
I love Gary.
I think we have
Earl too, and Jeff,
we have a lot of fun, and
and you guys.
we're last. See that?
No, there's a lot more people, and Vinny, and Staten Island Jim, and
We're a big Jim.
I love him too. I love everybody. Well, I love people.
I think Brennan just went sad panda.
No, I'm a people person. I don't know. We're just patting ourselves on the butt for the good job that we're doing. I think we should just keep on
No,
doing
I don't- no,
that's
no.
not what I'm saying. Thank you for people are obviously telling their friends and
it. Yeah, especially if you came back after my tirade last week. Thank you. Sincerely.
that was funny.
We're having fun doing this,
was fun.
and we're absolutely amazed and astonished that people are actually following this and listening to it. I mean, outside of
I'm sure they've all turned it off at this point, but
They're tired of hearing the two Jersey boys and the Benny talk about how wonderful their podcast is. It's
No,
almost,
I never
that's
said it
not.
was
That's
wonderful.
not.
I've
I'm
never
thank,
said
I'm
that.
thanking people for listening
it's
to
almost
this
as
crap.
good as Carding.
I'm thanking.
Oh my God.
You're being a dick.
all right, all right.
I'm thanking people
There's
for
the end of
listening to
that.
this crap.
We
You know,
fixed it.
I'm amazed that. I'm amazed. I thought you muted me for a second 'cause I'm so used to it. I'm amazed that people actually listen to us, and I thank you for taking the time out. of your
In all
day to-
seriousness, thank you everybody. Yeah.
We really hope to
I
keep
don't know
doing
what
this.
else
We're enjoying it, and your support means so much.
And now we're gonna get some people on for you to enjoy and listen to. If I didn't just break anything.
But
Oh
yeah,
my God.
But suggestions of people you want on. I mean,
Yeah.
Jason seems like he'd be very
Yeah.
good.
Warren Alston was another one that we would have. a
Yeah,
good time
Warren,
with.
definitely.
Please suggest who you'd like to hear.
Warren's gonna be on. It's just a matter
We
of
do
when.
have some pull on the national level too, so don't.
Now
think anything
he's
is
patting
too
himself on the back.
far-fetched.
Maybe officials.
No, I got a couple announcers and a handful of drivers.
All right. Well, while he's teasing that, we're gonna.
Can we get John West Townley?
Maybe I got John King once.
The original caution clock.
him?
That'd be amazing.
I did John King. I interviewed John King.
He said, "I just gave you the blank faces. I was
And
gonna
not
let
the guy
him keep
from
digging."
CNN either.
All
The
right,
guy
all
that
right.
looks at the
Well-
big board and tells you who Hillary's going to win what states and Trump's going to win the others. Not that
let's
guy.
not get into that.
The other
Anyway,
guy.
so I think we're
Jeremy
well
Clements.
over on time at this point. So, everyone, thank you very much for listening.
Ralph
I think we're
Shaheen.
gonna wrap this up,
Bob Jenkins.
and we're gonna.
Why are
gonna,
you like?
McGowan.
Why are you like?
Oh my God! All right,
bragging?
here we go. Fixed. All
Look,
right.
I know all these cool people. Look at me.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next week right here on the RPM podcast.